Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today we're going to be talking about a debate that pretty much took place over on Twitter. Now, this is actually pretty much all coming from somebody by the name of DJ Vlad. I don't know if you guys know who that is or not. He's like, I guess like an interviewer, I guess. Like, most of what I know of him is him like interviewing rap celebrities and stuff like that. So, he actually ended up putting a tweet out yesterday that ended up pretty controversial, and it had people debating whether or not playing video games for long periods of time is actually basically being depressed. And it created like this big debate because, I mean, on one hand of things, you have people like agreeing with DJ Vlad saying like, oh yeah, if you're playing video games all day or whatever, like you're clearly depressed. And then you have other people who are pretty much mostly gamers who are like defending gaming in this entire thing. So I kind of just wanted to talk about this because I actually think there's a really good conversation to be had about this. And to be honest with you, this isn't even the first time I've seen this take. It's not like DJ Vlad came out of nowhere with some brand new concept here with this one or anything, but I just wanted to talk about this in general because I feel like a lot of people on really both sides of the situation have a lot of misconceptions about playing video games. For instance, I feel like a lot of people who maybe don't play video games as much, they don't really understand, I guess, the mentality that most people who play video games have. I feel like a lot of the times they just kind of judge people based on their own preconceived notion of what it must mean, you know? And they kind of paint everybody with like a broad brush stroke in a way, you know? Like, I don't know, it feels like it's much more of an individualized argument, but there was a lot of backlash to this tweet, you know, a lot of people kind of destroying DJ Vlad for this one because they just kind of deemed it to be a shitty take in all reality. And I don't really blame people for having that opinion, but anyway, let's go ahead and read the tweet and let's go ahead and further discuss this. So, as an adult, playing video games for long periods of time is a form of depression. If you don't believe me, ask yourself this. Think about the 100 greatest moments of your life. Do any of those moments include video games? Probably not, and this comes from a lifetime gamer. So obviously, you know, the tweet didn't go over maybe as well as DJ Vlad would have liked for it to go over, but I kind of want to debate both sides of this argument because, once again, I feel like people on both sides have like these ridiculous concepts of like this whole topic, right? So first off, let's address what DJ Vlad said because he's the one who kind of started this whole conversation. So, as an adult, apparently playing video games for long periods of time is a form of depression. So, one thing about this argument that kind of hurts it is what qualifies a long period of time, you know? There's no real concrete answer to that question. There's no such thing as a long period of time in gaming, you know? Some people would deem it to be like if you play a video game for an hour and a half, you're playing too much, you know what I mean? That's too long. You're playing too long in video games and you need to find other hobbies. But at the same time, there's people who play video games for 8 hours a day and, you know, they don't feel like that's a long period of time, you know? Now, if you're playing like 16 hours straight, I think we can all agree that's probably a little long in terms of like how long you should be playing video games, but I mean, the truth is like what constitutes a long period of time playing video games? Like, there's no real accepted definitions, so it's kind of hard, I feel like, to give a legitimate standpoint on something like that, where there's no legitimate definition of what you're saying, you know what I mean? It's kind of hard to say, oh, playing video games for long periods of time is a form of depression because, like, what constitutes a long period of time? So he then goes on to say, you know, think about the 100 greatest moments of your life. Do any of those include video games? Probably not, and apparently it comes from a lifetime gamer. So the problem with this statement here is it's just blatantly untrue for a lot of people. I mean, for myself included, I can think of multiple moments in my life that I would probably include in the top 100 moments of my life that have involved video games. For instance, when I was about 3 years old, first learning how to play video games for the first time, and even into the younger ages of like 4, 5, 6, and 7, I remember playing some of the greatest video games of all time with my dad on the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox 360. As a kid, I watched through my dad basically play through Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas, and Grand Theft Auto 3. We played through the Oblivion game together. We played through Fallout New Vegas. We played through Fallout 3. And I can confidently say those late night times with my dad where we would just be playing video games and just enjoying ourselves in the experience of bonding with each other over video games, those are probably some of the best moments of my life, even if they were at young stages in my life. I mean, I look back on those times pretty fondly, and even like, there's other times too, like, there's definitely been some of those nights in Discord where you and the boys stay in there until 2 a.m. playing fucking whatever, right? And the laughs and the memories you get out of those, I feel like are pretty irreplaceable, at least for me. I mean, the days of playing Black Ops 2 with my friends on the PlayStation 3 after coming home from school every day, I would pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to get those days back, man. Like, those are genuinely some of the best times of my life. I mean, just enjoying like a common thing together, you know what I mean? And DJ Vlad's argument against this was like, oh, well, at that point, it's more about the bonding you experienced with each other and not the video game. But this is really kind of shifting the goalposts in the argument, because the whole point was, does it include video games? Which obviously these all do. And even like with my YouTube channel, I very vividly remember the day I hit 100,000 subscribers live on stream while I was playing Grand Theft Auto 3. And it was definitely one of the greatest moments of my life. I accomplished one of my dreams, you know what I mean? Playing video games live in front of people. So I just feel like this is a very biased kind of statement, you know? It's like, I understand not everything is subjective and like you can't prove everything you say and whatnot, but it's like, this is one of those things where like, once again, you're painting people with like a broad paintbrush and you're kind of just projecting your own insecurity, I guess, about video games onto other people. Like, I don't know, maybe DJ Vlad, like when he gets depressed, the first thing he runs to is playing video games for long periods of time. But I wouldn't say people are automatically depressed if they play video games for a long period of time, you know what I mean? Like, I know people who play video games 6 to 8 hours a day, you know, that'd be considered a long time for a lot of people, and they live very successful and happy lives, and they never complain about being depressed or having any problems like that. This idea that, like, I don't know, I feel like every other form of escapism except for video games is like kind of societally acceptable in a way. Like, you don't hear people say, oh, if you sit there and watch fucking Fox News for 9 hours a day like these old heads do, you're just suffering from depression. No, at that point, they're just entertaining themselves. They're finding something to do. If someone spends 8 hours a day scrolling through their phone and through social media, people don't say, oh, that person's depressed. No, they're just finding something to do and having a good time. But the moment you play video games for 6 to 8 hours a day, or what's deemed ludicrous to some people, oh, he must be depressed. Oh, he must not have a social life. He just must be a loser. You know what I mean? Like, there's a weird stereotype about playing video games seriously where people kind of like tend to believe that these people are like negatively impacted in some way where apparently other forms of entertainment don't do. If a movie buff watches 6 movies a day, nobody would complain about that. It wouldn't be deemed a waste of time. But if a guy plays, 4 hours of Counter-Strike, apparently that's like the end of the world and this guy needs to go get checked out by a therapist, Like, it just doesn't make sense to paint everybody under that same brush, I feel like it's a very individualized experience and some people just escape from reality in different ways. And I don't care what anyone says, everyone needs an escape. Everyone needs a way to get away from the monotony and the bullshit of everyday life. And if people decide to do that through video games, I really don't see what the huge problem is. I don't see why it's such a big deal. Now, at the same time, though, I want to go ahead and make this point. I feel like there's a lot of people who play video games and they play them for extreme periods of time and they just kind of completely ignore any potential side effect of that. Now, obviously sitting at a computer screen for 10 hours a day is not good for you realistically in any way. I mean, even if you're working at a cubicle for 10 hours a day staring at a computer screen, that's just as bad for you as sitting there playing video games. But if you're spending, 12 hours a day on Fortnite and you're actually neglecting your real world responsibilities and neglecting your real social life and like interacting with other human beings on a legitimate scale, I do think that is a problem. I do think that's when it becomes an issue. And it's realistically the same thing that you could say for just about anything. You have to learn how to live life in moderation. You can't do really anything excessively. I mean, even the basics, like if you eat too much food, you're gonna die. If you drink too much water, you can die. Like this concept, I guess playing 14 hours of Call of Duty a day is healthy. It's not a good idea to perpetuate, but I feel like a lot of the times that idea is more or less perpetuated back in response to things like this. All I personally have to say is if video games didn't change my life and give me that escape as a child and I didn't grow to have the relationship I do with video games, not only would I probably be a depressed fucking maniac somewhere in the streets of Ohio, but I also definitely wouldn't have my dream career here on YouTube, you know what I mean? And he made an exception, I guess, for people who do this professionally emotionally and things like that. But I think that more or less just kind of proves my point more. Like, you can't really just like start arguing semantics when you make a statement like this. Like, either playing video games for long periods of time is a form of depression or it's not. Like, that's the argument at hand here. If anything, I think playing video games for long periods of times can be an indicator of depression that is being caused or contributed to by other elements in your life. Now, I'm not a like licensed therapist or something, but like right now I'm just imagining like a guy who hates his job that he works at for 10 hours a day, and he comes home and just grinds video games because he hates his life. And video games are a good enough escape form for him to just get away from the real world for a while. I don't think video games inherently are what's making people depressed. I feel like it's other elements in people's lives that are contributing to them playing video games to these long extents, which aren't even fully defined in the first place. So with that being said though, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel, follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shoptimus down below. And until my next video guys, this is Optimus, well, just talking about this take and signing out.